Okay, hello everybody, and this is the third video for lesson 2.4, and we're going to be talking about the percent of change. Okay, so the percent of change, we're just going to use this formula right here, and this formula is the amount of change over the original amount. So here's what I mean by that. If I look at this problem right here, 25 is decreased to 20. Okay, so if 25 is decreased to 20, I want to figure out what's the amount that's changing from 25 to 20. I'm trying to find the difference between those two numbers. That's my amount of change. And then I'm just going to take that and put it over the original amount. So if I look at 25 to 20, to find the amount of change, we can just always find the difference by subtracting. So 25 minus 20, that's just 5. Okay, so my amount of change is 5. Okay, actually, let's put it over here. All right, and now I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to put it over the original amount. Well, my original amount, I started off with 25. So my amount of change is 5. My original amount is 25. So now I just have 5 divided by 25, or 5/25. What I can now do is I can determine how I want to change this fraction into a percentage. I can change it to a percentage by trying to get 100 in the denominator, or I can change it to a percentage by dividing and just finding the decimal equivalent and converting that decimal into a percentage. I'm actually just going to change my denominator to 100 because we know how to do that. We've done that in the previous video of 2-4a. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply by 4 because 25 times 4 is 100. So whatever I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. And I'm going to get 20 over 100. And whenever I have a denominator of 100 in a fraction, I know that my numerator is my percentage. Okay? So the percentage would be 20%. And because it was a 25 was decreased to 20, it's a 20% decrease. And that's it. That's all we're doing for percent of change. We're using this formula of amount of change over the original amount. And then we can just, once we set up the fraction, we can just determine how we want to convert this fraction into a percentage by either changing the denominator to 100 or by doing our division to convert it to a decimal. Let's take a look at another problem here. So 32 is increased to 72. Find the percent of change. Okay, so remember, I'm using the amount of change over the original amount. So my amount of change is going to be whatever the difference is between 32 and 72. So I can just find the difference by subtracting the smaller number from the bigger number. It doesn't matter which way we do it. And when I do this, I'm going to get 40. Okay, so I know that my amount of change is 40, and I'm going to put that over my original amount. Okay, and my original amount was 32. That's where we started. So this becomes 42 over 32. Now, 32 can't easily be converted to 100. I can't just do a simple multiplication to change that to 100. So to convert this fraction into a percentage, we're just going to divide and get the decimal equivalent, and then we're going to convert that decimal into a percentage. So I have to do my division of 40 divided by 32. 32 goes into 40 one time. Subtract 32, I'm left with 8. I have nothing less. I have to add my decimal and a 0. Let's bring this out. Let's bring that 0 down. 32 goes into 80. I'm thinking twice because 30 times 2 is 60. So let's see. 32 times 2 would be 64. I'm left with 6. Okay. Oh, I'm not left with 6. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm left with 16. I almost made a simple mistake there. I'm left with 16. Bring down my next 0. And 32 goes into 160. Let's see here. I'm going to take a guess. I'm not sure, so let me guess and check. I think it's going to be 5 times, though. Let's look. So 32 times 5 is 10. Bring up your 1, 15, 16. Oh, 160. Perfect. So when I subtract 160, I have no remainder. So what we've just found out is we just found 40 over 32 becomes 1.25. Now that I have 1.25, I need to convert this into a percentage. And as we did in the first video of this lesson, you just move the decimal place over 2 times to the right, and that's your percentage. So it is 125% 32 is increase to 72 is a 125% increase because, again, we increased the number, we didn't decrease. Okay, and that would be my final answer. Okay. All right, let's take a look at another one. 28 is increased to 98. So again, it's the amount of change. Oh, it's not a very good T. Amount of change over original. Okay, so my amount of change is the difference between the two. So I'm going to take 98 minus 28. Just find the difference. Take whatever the bigger number is and subtract it from the smaller number. And I'm going to get 70. So I have my amount of change of 70 over my original amount, just 28. So now I can just do 70 divided by 28 to convert it to a decimal. 28 goes into 70. Oh, I'm thinking, let's try 2 times here. Yep, because it's going to be 56. We're left with 14. Add my decimal and a 0. 28 goes into 140. I'm going to take a guess of 5. Let's look and see how it works out. 4. It is 5. Wow, I got lucky again. That's awesome. So subtract 140, and I'm left with no remainder. So when I converted 70 28ths into a decimal, I did get 2.5. Now I can convert this decimal into a percentage because we're trying to find the percent of change. So move it over twice, add my 0, and I found out that when 28 is increased to 98, it is a 250% increase. One last problem. Okay, this is a word problem. The regular price of an MP3 player is $79.99. It's a cheap price for an MP3 player. It is now on sale, and the new price is $59.99. That's even cheaper. What was the percent of decrease between the original price and the sale price? So basically, I want to figure out what the percent of decrease was. So I need to find the amount of change and divide that by my original amount. So I had the amount of change. We started from $79.99 and we went to $59.99. So let's subtract the bigger number from the smaller number. And we're going to get $20 was the amount of change. Okay, so that was a $20 decrease. So now I'm going to take my original amount, put that in my denominator. So I have my amount of change, 20, over $79.99. Now I would want to convert this into a decimal. Okay, so we would do that by doing our division. Okay, so I would set this up as 20 divided by $79.99. Now, when I do this, let's take a look at one little thing real quick, is we cannot have a decimal on the outside right here. I need to move my decimal over and get rid of it. So I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places, but if I do that on the outside, I have to do it on the inside. So I'm going to move it over 2 places, add 2 zeros, and then there's where my decimal is going to go. So let's extend this out, bring my decimal up. So now I'm really doing 7,999 and then 2,000. So it's 2,000 divided by 7,999. And just for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is, because it's going to be a long decimal answer, what we're going to do is I'm just going to tell you what the answer was when you do that division. And it's going to be something around 0.2500. And we're just going to round it off because it keeps going on for a long ways. Now what I can do, though, is I have my decimal of 0.2500. I can convert this into a percentage by moving my decimal over twice. And when I do that, I'm going to get a 25% decrease. So what that means is that this MP3 was on sale for 25% off, and it was decreased by 25% to $59.99. And that's it. That is how we find the percent of change. So just a quick little recap. The most important thing about percent of change is that we use this formula, and that is the amount of change divided by the original amount, and then just convert this fraction into a decimal or into a percentage. Okay, thanks guys. You guys should do great.